What's happening, guys? It's Nate with the weekend wrap-up. A lot of tennis this past weekend. We saw a lot of 250s on the ATP, but no bigger news than the likely retirement of Argentina's Juan Martin del Potro. Super sad news, especially because as of last week, he had announced that he accepted wild cards into Buenos Aires and into Rio de Janeiro's tournament. So we all got really excited thinking that he was back in form. But that quickly changed when he said that it was obvious that people kind of were being misled, not intentionally, just with the announcement that this is actually a farewell tour, that he has not recovered from the knee injury that he suffered in 2019. More on that in just a moment. But there's just such a great tragedy with Juan Martin del Potro, because in 2009, we saw him defeat Roger Federer to win the U.S. Open. So much promise. I mean, one of the biggest, if not the biggest forehand the tour's ever seen. Great serve. All the skill set, but just absolute plagued with injuries. He's had 10 surgeries since 2010. And with the knee injuries, to clarify, he fractured his kneecap, and the first occurred in 2019, playing in Shanghai against Borna Coric, and then he did it the following year after having surgery in the first round with Denis Shapovalov, again fracturing the kneecap. And so Martin made it very clear this decision is gutting him, but he's in a lot of pain. As he says here, I don't know what will happen in the future, but I have to make a choice that allows me to live without pain. Still in chronic pain, and doing a little research, apparently fracturing your kneecap is one of the worst things you can do as far as a knee injury, that due to the arthritis that occurs with it, it typically ends up that even without activity, there's a lot of pain that's associated, and obviously making tennis really, really difficult. So this is actually a fracturing of the patella that covers and protects the knee joint, which is commonly referred to as the kneecap. So obviously the knee injury is very severe, and Delpo hasn't outright said it's the end. He's alluded to it. I think he said it's in God's hands to see what happens after these two tournaments. But I think the amount of pain and the immobility, he knows that these are probably the last two tournaments. So if you want to watch Delpo play, he's actually playing TBD, to be determined, sometime today in the Argentina Open against Federico Del Bonis. I think Del Bonis is the 6th seed, but hey, you can't count out Juan Martin del Potro, the Titan from Tennille. Huge forehand, huge serve. We'll see what happens. And this isn't just a blow to us fans. He's one of the most beloved players that we've seen in the last decade. Our very own Scott, his favorite player of all time, but also one of the favorites on tour amongst his peers. And I think a lot of this no one wanted to see him in their side of the draw. Although he was in top 20 for most of his career, in 2018, we did see him break into the top 10 in August, since the first time in August 2014, when he defeated Roger Federer to win the Masters 1000 event in Indian Wells. And then he quickly, started having the knee issues. But so will definitely be missed on tour. Hopefully he has just a great one. How cool would it be if he was to win one of these tournaments? Amazing. I'll be tuning in. I hope you do as well. So what else was happening this weekend on the ATP? Well, in the Cordoba Open in Argentina, some good news out of Argentina, especially if you're an Albert Ramos fan. He defeated Alejandro Tabilo 4-6, lost the first 4-6, won the second 6-3, and then was down 1-4, double break to come back and win that set 6-4. And I'll just show you the highlights here. Coming down from two breaks is almost impossible to do on the tour. Now, obviously, he's a huge fan of the red clay. Tabilo, had been playing great. He defeated Diego Schwartzman in the semifinals, but just started being more aggressive, some really gutsy play. But Ramos capturing his third title, but his first title since 2019. So congrats to him. You can see just that absolute joy. So super cool stuff there from ATP Tennis Live. And moving on to France, we saw the battle of the Alexanders. Alexander Bublik versus Alexander Zverev. And Bublik coming through, winning his 5th try. He lost in his previous 4 other finals. This time taking the title to win his first ATP tournament, and pretty decisively, winning 6-4, 6-3. Came out with a very sound game plan, looked super solid, and a very different Bublik than we're kind of used to seeing, right? Like, we're used to the underhand serves, the between the legs, like, just playing for himself and kind of making poor decisions in big moments. This was just disciplined tennis, so be on the lookout for Mr. Bublik in 2022. However, a lot of concern growing with Alexander Zverev. I know before it was all about the serve, but the truth is he's serving great. He's picked up the speed at one point, almost hitting 2 first serves, and now he's comfortable with that kicker. But what's happening is between the ears. Just a lack of confidence. We saw him go out early in the Australian, stating that was more about expectations, and then playing great in France until the final and just kind of disappeared again. So this kind of sums it up. This is a great meme for you Office fans from ATP WTA memes. Zverev, one of the favorites to win a slam, and then dropping the chili, spilling the beans. This stat really jumped out at me. He's 4-15 versus the top 20 in Grand Slams and 0-11 versus top 10 at slams. So although he's scooping up and winning a ton of 1,000s, 500s, we haven't seen him show up at a slam yet. So it'll be interesting to see what happens for the remainder of the year. So let's take a look at where we're at with the ATP race. Let's get an update here. This is from ESPN. The margin between Djokovic and Medvedev is narrowing. We could see Medvedev capture Novak, especially if Djokovic elects not to play the French. So we could finally see a shift here. We see Zverev pretty close to Medvedev in third, but Tsitsipas right on his heel, and then Nadal staying very, very relevant in that 5th spot. We have seen Federer drop out of the top 20, falling into the 30s now, but he's not playing for rankings. That guy just wants chips. He wants to come out and win the big tournaments, the Grand Slams, and whatnot. So that is the update. Sad news with Juan Martin. We'll be rooting for him. Maybe he can pull off this tournament in Argentina. And I will be back next week to update you on all things, including that tournament and everything else happening with the ATP WTA. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time.